Hello and welcome guys. The crossbow is arguably the weapon in PUBG that requires the most skill to play with. Its varying travel time, insane drop, and alongside the Arctic Warfare, or AWM, can one-shot a level 3 helmet killing a player. The benefits of this are that it's extremely stealthy, so it's almost impossible to tell where you're getting shot from. The reload time, however, is very long. Anyway, the crossbow can take only two attachments. Firstly, the quiver, which increases reload speed, and secondly, it can take a variety of optics from a red dot or hollow all the way up to a 6x. Using these can be tricky, since for the most part they are designed for use on firearms, not a crossbow, but knowing how to use them could land you a kill on an enemy without revealing your location to other players. This is extremely useful, and also very fun to do. If you've grown to play the end game in different ways instead of thriving on just winning a chicken dinner, then perhaps you need a challenge. Here's how you can use all the optics and the aim points of a crossbow up to 150 meters. The default scope works wonders. It comes with the crossbow, so no shady iron sight, although that would be even more badassery to kill with it. Shooting up to 50 meters, you can use this aim point right here. It is ever so slightly up from here, but the difference isn't possible to account for in game, not even while zoomed in. And for 100 meters, using this aim point, very intuitive. And lastly, 150 meters. This is a very odd, and there's no real point to shoot for as it's invisible, but this is the point you'll want to use. It's slightly above the 20 marker. The average travel time for a crossbow bolt is approximately 0.68 seconds, travelling at 147 meters a second. With all this in mind, it's pretty difficult to actually calculate this on the fly with an enemy potentially able to turn around and spot you. Here's a handy little trick I've found with the built-in scope. Using the distance between the aim points and the vertical line of the scope markings, you can estimate very accurately the exact moment to let loose your bolt to hit at 50 meters and 100 meters. These are the main distances you'd want to use the crossbow on a regular basis. The 50 meter compensation is when your enemy just touches this line. The 100 meter shot is slightly off to the right a little bit, being here. Obviously this only works if your target is running from right to left, which isn't going to happen every time, but hopefully through practice you can start to hit those shots based on the distance to your aim points instead of relying on the scope markings. This way you can hit your targets when they run from left to right as well. As will become clear, the 50 meter aim point for the optics is pretty much always the centre of the scope. This doesn't change for the red dot. Shooting for 100 meters, you'll need to aim here. I wouldn't advise the use of this optic for 150 meters plus, but this is the aim point anyway. Matching these points against the original was interesting as they are very similar, and I believe the red dot may have very slightly more zoom perhaps, and this means it needs to account for a slight amount more drop. Onto the other close range optic, which is the holographic. It's interesting when you know the aim points. 50 meters is obviously the center of the scope. Aiming for 100 is done using the point here, which is just below the bottom spike of the reticle. And again, here's the 150 meter aim point, but I don't think it's going to be an easy shot to make as there's nothing else to compare it with or line up. Onto the 2x, which is very common and very useful. The center aim point shoots for 50 meters. Releasing the bolt towards a 100 meter target will need you to aim just below the scope's markings. This is very similar to the red dot on the hollow. And then 150 meters again is just slightly further down. I believe you could shoot at 150 with this or any scope onwards. This is the first attachable optic I would like to try it with on a consistent basis. There's a very small change from 100 to 150 meters, and the chances are you could use the 100 to aim at your opponent's head, shift up a little, and that will at least hit their body for some nice damage. Onto the 3x, another common optic, and this is where things take a little change as the 3x has got more detailed markings. So the 50 meter aim point is the center, you can see the pattern that's emerging here. Your 100 meter aim point is way down here. There's a big jump on this optic for the 100 meter shot. You can see it just marks past the first increase in width of the markings, so that will be a good aim point to use, just shift up a little. And 150 meters is placed here. It's not a smaller jump from the increase of marker width, but should you hit this, it's almost blind as your target will most likely be obscured by the markings. The 4x, a very versatile optic that can easily turn the crossbow into a one-shot killer at range. I'm betting you've already guessed the 50 meter aim point and you're not wrong. The 100 meter aim point is really useful here. You aim just below the scope's markings. Bear in mind that this is where the bolt will hit, so aim for the neck region if possible. At least you know if you're off by a little, it's either going to be a body shot or a headshot. The 150 meter aim point is invisible, but marked here. Landing a shot here will be very difficult, but very impressive. Lastly, we have the 6x. This is probably my favourite and you'll see why. So onto the 100 meter aim point, as by now you already know the 50 meter one. The 100 meter aim point is marked just below the increase in width again, very similar to the 3x. Now onto the 150 meter aim point on this scope. It's not entirely invisible. It's marked here, but it lines up almost with the built-in 300 meter rangefinder. It's just a little below. So these are the points you can aim for, and this optic makes it easier to hit those further away shots. I'm guessing you guys will probably like all of these in a single still shot, so you can easily switch to another optic, and then a quick glance to see the aim points you'll need for that scope. Well, here you go. This was quite a fun video to make, even if it just helps you troll a little during the end game, as long as you're having fun. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.